So guys, I'm back with another video today, and this is a story time. You could have probably tell already by the title of the video, because that's the reason why you clicked it. And this is about the time me and my family were robbed. Yes, we were robbed. And so it was like, I can't remember if it was a weekday or if it was on the weekend, but we were coming home, and at that time there were a lot of robberies going on in our area where we live. So we decided that we're gonna come home as early as possible, and I think we were heading home around 8 p.m. that evening. And so it wasn't customary that we would be out like later than that, but if we would, we were gonna come home with a taxi, and or I think it was around 7. I think it was around 7 p.m. And so we were saying to ourselves, we're gonna walk the piece in because we live through a street and then you turn and then that's us. So we averaged that it was early enough that we could have just like, okay, we're gonna walk. And yeah, so we started walking and we were conscious about what was going on. So we were talking about it, and when we were like halfway through the journey, my sister, she was tired, so she wanted me to jockey her. I don't know if some of you may know what jockeying is. And so I was jacking her, and we were walking in, and we were making like smirk, funny remarks about it. So we were saying that once we hit a certain point, we're just gonna start running until we get home. And it was funny then that we were just gonna be running until we reach home, because it was just a small piece left for us to actually get into our gate, like get on the bridge into the open the gate into the yard. So we were laughing and being funny about it, saying that we were gonna run after we reach a certain point. And so it happened that when we were about to reach the point, there was a there was a motorbike that just started up just like that. So apparently they were just sitting waiting there for us. And so one of them just jumped off to the bike and started swearing at me and my sister. Well, they probably didn't realize, or they didn't care to realize, that she was sleeping, and they were like, "Get the bleep from here, go away, move." So my fight or flight hormone just kicked in, and I started running. And so I ran in the direction, and many persons tend to laugh about this story. Like all of my best friends and other people, when I tell them this story, they tend to laugh. But I don't know, like I don't see the funny, the humor in it. Like probably it is a bit funny, but they just think that I'm a bad person because what I did was run. I kept running until I reached home, because it happened in such a rush. Like my fight or fright hormone just kicked in, and he was like, "Get away from here, get away, run, move." And so I guess she was the intended target, and so I was running with my sister on my back because, as I said, I was jockeying her, and I ran about 3 to 4 houses in, and then I stopped. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I ran away and left my mom. So then I pick up my phone, put my sister down, dial 911, and then I heard my mom screaming. And so I started running back in the direction to where it happened. And mind you, while one of them jumped off of the bike and was trying to attack her, there was another one just sitting waiting on the bike, and I think he was just like ready. He was like the getaway guy. So whenever the other one came back with whatever they were trying to steal, he would just drive off. So he was in control of the motor vehicle, and the other one was doing the dirty deed. And so when I heard her start screaming, I forget it. I actually was dialing 911, and I started running towards her. Then I looked at my phone because it was lighting up, and then I think someone was saying something, so I just disconnected the call like that. Like I don't know. It was it was in such a rush. Like I couldn't believe it because, as I said, when we were walking in that day, we were kind of making funny, smart remarks. Well, at that time because it was in the night, but it was like 7 p.m. And we were making fun about it because who would have ever thought we would have been robbed? And so that was what happened from my point of view. Like, I don't know why did anybody not be outside or there to help us, but it happened in such a way like when he was rushing to us and he started swearing, he had something like he was pointing, but it was in the evening and the street lights. I think this one of the street lights. Well, two of them were in that area, and I think only one of them was working. And so I couldn't really see what he had, and I already had my sister on my back, and so I just ran. Like it kind of happened in a robotic way, like I just did what he said. So I don't know if he said something else, like beyond that, if I would have done it. But I ran with her until I reached the bridge, and then dialed 911, put my sister down, and I started running back. So when I was running back, now I saw the other one running, coming. Like I could see through the street from where they were running, my mom, and he ran back to the bike and they drove off. And so when I ran to her, she was crying and screaming and walking and limping, like it was in a limping way. And then I realized that she had a bruise on her knee. And then I started crying. And I think at that point, my sister was fully awake. And partially, she was understanding what was happening. And so she started like freaking out too. And so that was the story from my point of view. Now, the part after we ran off, this is from my mom's point of view. So she was saying that after we ran off, she was trying to run back in the direction that we were walking, trying to run away from them, but she's kind of big built. And so she said that the guy was running and he kind of reached her and tripped her. So that's how she fell and bruised her knee. And she was holding her purse. It had her house keys, it had a novel, it had her wallet with all of her identification cards, bank cards, credit cards, ID cards. I don't think her passport was in there. It had her phones. She had two phones at that point, I think, yeah. One of them was like a recent model that had been just released. She had an umbrella. She had some money from the ATM because we stopped to the ATM when we were going, and she didn't use any of the money. So we ended up coming back with the money that she took out. It had that. I think it was about 50 US. And then she also had some US currency. Like, I think those are currencies that she always had in her purse. And so it was a lot of things that were in the bag. So from her point of view, the story, she was lying on the ground, and when he tripped her and he was trying to pull the bag, she turned over and she was actually fighting for the bag. She was fighting him, and then she said that he probably realized that she had on a gold necklace and it had her birthstone gem inside of it, and he started pulling that, and she couldn't really fight him for that and the bag at the same time, so he pulled it, it burst. So he had that, and then he started fighting back for the bag, and he was like threatening her with an hand motion as if he had a gun or a knife or something. But to her skin sensation, there wasn't any stabs being made, or she couldn't actually see a physical weapon. So I don't know if he actually had something. She, up to this day, I don't think she's sure if he actually had a knife or an ice pick or anything, or if he was just bluffing. But he overpowered her. He picked up the bag, or he pulled the bag, and he ran off. And that's when I turned back and I was running back towards her, and I see him coming in the direction, going back on the motorcycle to ride off. And so when I ran to her and she was crying, I heard screams, she was screaming, and it was such a confusing situation. She was screaming rape, she was screaming thief, she was screaming some other stuff. I started screaming too, like it happened so fast. Like she screamed after I put on my sister. I started screaming, or I can't remember if I screamed. But it was such in a rush, and I was like so angry because I was like, why didn't anybody, or why didn't any of our neighbors come out and help her? Until the deed was actually done and they drove off, then somebody came. Or then a lot of persons from through the street came. She was bruised on her knees. I think it was her knees and some other parts on her leg. They were bruised. She was looking around because she wasn't sure if he got to take the entire chain, or at least when it burst, she inferred the dependent with her birthstone gem probably fell off. So we tried looking for that, but we couldn't find it. So apparently, when he pulled it, he had that part in his hand and he held on to it. So when it burst in like a V shape. So only this part from forward came off. The other part behind her neck we found on the road. It was flying there on the road, and yeah, that was all that we found, and it was so terrible. Like I don't know, like. I never thought that we could have been robbed, like literally. I can't say at gunpoint, but on such an unexpected event where we were actually joking about it because a lot of robberies were going on in the area. And so they tried to help her, like they tried to help us. Some of them walked back home with us. Well, it wasn't a far distance. It was like 3 to 4 houses down because we were walking through a street, and then, as I said, we had to turn, and then the 4 houses, and that was us. And so they helped her walk. I helped her walk. I think by then my sister was fully conscious of what was going on, but then she didn't know what actually happened. Like the bag was gone with everything. As I said, the keys, the wallet. It was so traumatic. Like if anybody knows like what it is to lose legal documents, it was such a hassle for her to get back all of those information afterwards. She had to go into the bank, sort out that. She had to get back her bank card, her credit cards. She had to go into what's this place? But she had to get back her ID card information. That took a while. We had to go to the locksmith, change her house keys because, as I said, the keys were in the bag. Thank you, God. Like that was. So we came home. We tried to get ourselves calm, settle down, grasp what was going on, and at that point we were really anxious. So we were trying to just simmer down and be calm about it. I mean, after that night, she had a lot of nightmares with him, just in her face, like he was over her, trying to overpower her to collect the bag. She had a lot of nightmares about it afterwards. The next day, we walked around. We walked in the direction that they drove off to see if they could have at least throw back the ID cards, because obviously they can't use the ID cards. Obviously, they can't use the debit cards. And we checked to see if they probably disposed of those stuff like on the roadsides, but they didn't. We didn't find anything. And so yeah, it was really bad. Like we were so scared to like even walk during the day, during the night. Like I don't know if they could have still recognized us. We couldn't recognize them, and it was like so bad. I can't remember getting nightmares about it, but that just left me unsettled. Like that night, I couldn't sleep. My mom was said she couldn't sleep, and she was tending to her bruises. We were helping her with iodine and stuff. She was putting on them, cleaning it. The jeans got ripped. That was such a bad experience. Her phones, she had to go back into the telephone service, get back new numbers, buy a new phone. I would not wish robbery on my worst enemy on their best day. Like the burden of having, and then it's one thing if you're robbed and they just take your cash, but it's another thing when you're robbed and as a woman, maybe you're very fearful. Like we get fear easily. We're frightened easily. We're in feared easily, and so it's another thing when you're gonna be robbed of all your personal possessions, like your cards, your ID cards, your credit, your debits, your house keys. We had to get that sorted out pretty quickly because we weren't sure if they knew us. We weren't sure if they knew we were living, and so that was one of the most terrible things that could have happened to anybody. It was so bad. Like the night we couldn't sleep because we don't know if they would have came, like tried to do something or attempt something. Like we just did not know. We just did not know. And so yeah, that's pretty much my story time on the time me and my family got robbed. So basically, it was just me, my mom, and my sister. And please do click on that button, people. This is a true story. Like, I cannot lie. I will not lie for subscribers. But just go ahead and click on that subscription button. I have some other crazy stories coming up for you guys. Just thumbs up my video if you like this comment, and I'll be sure to see you guys in my next video. Bye. And by the way, if you're wondering what I did this makeup look for today, it was done for church. Yep, it's Sunday here in Guyana, South America. So I went to church today and I did this look. So that was just in case if you guys were wondering, and that will be all for this video. Bye. Don't forget to click that button.